worldwide fans of the planet's hottest entertainment with an edge. Jaime En Fuego here, welcoming you once again to another installment of Enfuegotainment. That's right, my namesake program. You can just call me Fuego for short, and I am so stoked to have you here for my first review post Phoenix Fan Fusion, where with my other YouTube channel, The Horror Show, we presented 3 different panels and had an amazing time doing, I'm Not Crying, You're Crying, about sad moments in horror movies. We also did a horror remakes panel, and then lastly, my Year of 19 Hail to Stephen King panel. Shout out to Shane Hunt for jumping on and being a part of that. But yes, so at the tail end of this convention formerly known as Phoenix Comic-Con, I went and I saw with 2 die-hard Aladdin fanatics, at least of the animated version of this, none other than the live-action Aladdin. That's right, directed by Guy Ritchie, which was kind of a head-scratcher initially. A lot of people were like, okay, the dude who did Snatch, and who did Lock, Stock, and, Rock and Rolla, and I mean, all of these different, all about like British organized crime, man, and super vulgar and crazy, and, myself included was like, what in the hell is Guy Ritchie doing directing something like Aladdin? But then when I thought about it a little bit more, it was like, well, both of the Sherlock Holmes films were very much like mainstream popcorn fare, and so for that reason, and also with the King Arthur movie too, which I never saw, but I was at least curious enough. I've seen pretty much everything that, Ritchie has done, so I'm gonna have to get around to that at some particular point, even though it was raked over the coals, man, just racked that chisel by pretty much every critic and fan that I spoke with, but, nonetheless, I was curious about this version of Aladdin, and going in with pretty much donuts for expectation, for the sheer fact that unlike, I went with some of the Horror Show crew and awesome lady as well, but it was just like, I didn't have that close connection with this particular Disney property. I was not one of those people who just was over the moon for that late 80s, early 90s Disney animated renaissance that started pretty much with Little Mermaid and then carried through Aladdin and The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, and Pocahontas, and then started to wane in some people's estimation with stuff like The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Hercules is pretty good. I'll give that one, some cred. Emperor's New Groove, though, on Mulan and stuff. I don't know. I've actually never seen Mulan, so I can't hate on it. All the Disney peeps who are watching this, please don't hate on me, but I was at that age where I was a teenager by that point, and I was losing interest in Disney stuff, And so, yeah, even when Aladdin came out, I was still, I don't even think I was a teenager yet, but it just did not resonate with me like it did for a lot of people. And so, everything here, at least as far as, the reviews and stuff right here, the Fresca Fuego reviews, it's all going to be a little bit of bueno, malo, and feo, good, bad, and ugly. So yeah, to start with the good, I think going in without much of a recollection of the original film, aside from, a few of the songs and stuff like that, like A Whole New World and Never Have a Friend Like Me and so on, and obviously remembering the iconic performance from Robin Williams specifically, and bits and pieces of the storyline. But I think going in with a fresh set of eyes to some degree was actually good for me, because of the fact that I really enjoyed this movie. I did. I liked it quite a bit, much more so than I was even anticipating. I was very cautious initially of the Will Smith casting, but for me, Will Smith was maybe one of the best things about this. He took a role that was made so iconic by, the dearly departed Robin Williams, and he did something in the vein, but it worked as far as Will Smith bringing his characteristic charm. And this was, as I was telling, the friends as we were walking out of the theater, I was like, that was the most I've enjoyed Will Smith in this sort of movie in quite a while. I didn't like the Men in Black sequels and Wild Wild West, and after he was no longer really Mr. Summer Blockbuster like he was in the mid-90s, he shifted to more dramatic roles, like Pursuit of Happiness and, Ali and things of that nature. But I loved him in this role. I thought he was really, really good. He endeared himself to me with this performance. He was charming, he was fun, he was funny. And even though, some of the CGI for him, which I'll get into, the malo, the bad, didn't always look as good, they did a better job with the, the genie manifestation into, the actual human transition, like you saw in maybe some of the trailers and one of the musical numbers that they released. So I thought he was great. There's one scene in particular where he's first kind of getting to know Aladdin after they, get out of, after, he gets the lamp and everything. This is a tried and true story. I mean, it's been adapted so many times in various versions and stuff, and it's not one of those original Disney properties, you know, like The Lion King, although The Lion King borrowed so much from like Hamlet anyway. So yes, he's great in it, and I mean, where he's just like, it's a girl, right? You know, and he's just all whimsically, you know, putting his feet up, and just, it made me smile, man. So, you know, if you had a problem with it, hey, to each their own, you have your own opinion. But also the girl who played Jasmine, tremendous. I thought she's beautiful, terrific singer, probably the best singer out of everybody in this movie, to be honest. The kid who played Aladdin, I was watching him on Collider Live. He's originally from Egypt, and he was solid, but nothing particularly memorable. But for me, it was the performances of you know, Jasmine and the new genie that really made this stand out. And obviously Alan Tudyk, he didn't have much to say, but he was good replacing Gilbert Gottfried as Iago. I want to say, the weird schmack-talking parrot. So yeah, those are all good things. And also, Guy Ritchie's direction, it was somewhere between like the direction that we've kind of seen with you know, those Sherlock Holmes films, like I said, and you know, some of the weird slowdown at certain points. Not an abundance of it, but I actually was impressed because I felt like he took more cues from like Bollywood in this, and I thought the costume design and some of the sweeping camera movements and stuff, I really dug it. I loved the look of this movie, even though it was a little CGI heavy at a few particular points. I mean, the ending dance number when the credits start is just great and made me so happy, man. And you know, as somebody who was given an appreciation for Bollywood from a previous relationship where, you know, she was like super into that stuff and, you know, got me going with it, I thought it was badass. You know, I loved the look of this film. It was good. It was good. It was good. But now to get into the Malo, it is a little CGI heavy, and that's a bad thing, especially with the genie where he's like big and ripped and floating around a few times and all that other stuff. It didn't really do it for me, and it did look a little fake. But then again, a genie is a, you know, imaginary, you know, just, I don't know, they're not real. So, and I don't know. So that was a few of the things, and then I guess some of the dialogue is hammy, and some of the humor fell flat. I will definitely agree, especially with the handmaiden of Jasmine. Just, she has this whole flirty thing going on with the genie, with Will Smith when he's in human form. And it's stupid, and it's not funny, and they're like weird courting flirtations and stuff, and she's talking all stoically with him and prim and properly, and then she's shutting the door and she's going like, yes, 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 like she's so stoked that he's being a little flirty pants with her. So the humor didn't always work, and then it's also a little heavy-handed with some of the social justice sort of stuff, and not that it's a bad message, but it's just very obvious and heavy-handed with it, and maybe it just kind of, it draws you out of the narrative a little bit. So I mean, I don't know. And also just weak performances in some way. I mean, it wasn't particularly good or bad, you know, with the kid playing Aladdin. He was just very much ho-hum to me. It was just that almost an indifference where I was just like, okay. I mean, he has some great chemistry in the scenes with Will Smith. I will give him that. I enjoyed those, but I didn't really buy as into the romance with him and the actress playing Jasmine. It didn't like knock me head over heels or anything like that. And I've seen true chemistry and, you know, passion on screen various times and seen just that spark, and it just didn't really feel as much to me like it was there between, you know, these two actors. And also, I mean, going into it and with the basis of knowledge that you have from having seen I mean, once I started watching it, I was like, okay, yeah, I pretty much remember the gist of this story. And so that aspect of predictability and the fact that they didn't really branch out and do too much, you know, more interesting than this, I don't know, but good segue into the Feo. And the ugly, for me, doesn't always have to be something ugly specifically. The way I look at it, it can also be a lack thereof. And the lack thereof of ugly from our villain was the biggest gripe that I have from this. Now, it wasn't sexy Jafar, like all these people were like, why are they making Jafar sexy and young and blah, blah, blah. You know, I give credit where it's due, where it's handsome, good-looking guy. But, you know, I have an appreciation, you know, for a good-looking dude. And, I mean, he's not super heartthrob stud status, but I guess to each their own in that regard as well. But the fact that he wasn't intimidating, you know, and he didn't have some super high-pitched, squeaky voice, whatever, you know, like some people were proclaiming. So yeah, I saw a few gripes in just headlines because I never read reviews or watch any videos before I see a film I intend upon reviewing, or even just a movie I intend on seeing, I have that interest in. And, you know, some were saying, you know, high-pitched and handsome and all this other stuff. I didn't necessarily find any of that, and I didn't even necessarily find his performance bad, but he wasn't scary and he wasn't villainous enough. And so that lack of ugly was in fact an ugly in its own right, because, I mean, whereas Jafar I remember very distinctively as a villain in the first, and I mean Return of Jafar the second one, and even the animated series and stuff, he did have that older kind of like scary vibe, especially for younger kids, and this actor did not possess that. I didn't feel like he was even written that way, and even in the third act where it's going the same beats as the original Aladdin cartoon, he just didn't have that. He wasn't villainous enough for me, and that lack of ugly serves as an ugly. And then I guess I could also double down on the fact that, you know, when they're just gonna do a reprise of the, you know, I won't be silent, you know, I'm speechless, or all this different stuff, I mean, it was just so on the nose. It was too much with the Jasmine character, and that's sort of when you're trying to combat the ugliness of, you know, just male privilege and all that other stuff, but by doing it so overtly, and just, I mean, there's better ways to go about it without just making it so glaringly obvious. And, you know, nonetheless, it's definitely an intention with Disney big time lately. And, you know, hey, make Jasmine the Sultan. I'm glad that she became it. I'm glad that spoilers, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It just, to wrap things around and just bring it all full circle, I really did enjoy this movie despite some of my qualms with it. And nothing for me, as of yet, has topped the Lily James Cinderella. That for me is the absolute tops as far as the Disney live action remakes and versions that they're doing. I know everybody's really holding out hope for The Lion King. I like The Jungle Book well enough, and this, honestly, this for me is on the level with The Jungle Book as far as enjoyment levels go. But I don't know, once again, just like with Aladdin, The Lion King is not a property that I absolutely adore. I know many people do, and once again, to each their own. Film is subjective. So if I'm going to give it a final score, this is a 3 out of 5. This is a bueno movie. You know, it's not as bad as a lot of people anticipated, and the burden of expectation does in fact help when going into something like this. But I was there with a very fervent crowd, and I saw it on a Sunday night after the con, like I was saying, and legit, there was still lines down the street, and I had predicted on Willis Screedy's YouTube channel that I have been very stoked to guest on for his Monday evening program called Show Business, that you can catch every Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern time, and I've been guesting on that here and there lately, which has been cool. But I had predicted that this was going to do over 80 million, and a lot of people were thinking, man, maybe 50, 60, maybe they were boldly saying 70, and this made like 90, I think a little over 90. So when I saw lines like down the theater for people still trying to see this on Sunday night, granted it was Memorial Day weekend, school is out, and a lot of people didn't have to work the next day, I was like, this movie's going to make some money. It's not going to be a flop like Dumbo. This was so much better than Dumbo. Dumbo looked good, but, you know, it didn't do it for me, just like the Alice in Wonderland movies didn't do it for me, just like, you know, the Beauty and the Beast didn't particularly do it for me. But Aladdin, I really liked, and I totally recommend. So once again, 3 out of 5. It's a bueno film, and yes, I guess I'm going to call it there. So I have been Jaime En Fuego. You can find moi on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube for Enfuegotainment. So if you have not done the subscribe thing, hit the bell so you get notifications, and if you want to like and share, it's greatly appreciated. Also, if you want the spooktacular coverage that, you know, you probably, if you're on this channel, know me more so from that, you can jump over to youtube.com/The Horror Show channel. Just like you see below, we have a review of Godzilla King of the Monsters coming. I'm actually headed to that screening tonight. Very stoked. And also there's going to be a review of Ma and a few other things. Our coverage from those panels at Phoenix Fan Fusion 2019 is also going to be debuting on the channel very soon. And back here on Enfuegotainment, yes, you can definitely look forward to a review of Booksmart coming very soon, as well as Rocket Man, the much anticipated biopic for none other than Sir Elton John. So I guess that is going to call it. So I shall say until the reel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, cinemigos. But I am hopeful that we get to reconnect sooner rather than later. Bye!